Jean-Clair Todibo is dropping hint after hint after hint. Could he be Ineos' first Manchester United signing? Meanwhile, two other players we've been linked with in Jared Branthwaite and Michael Olise. Question is, can we afford the so much million pounds that we need to get the two of them? I'll tell you about Jurgen Klopp and how he has questioned Erik Ten Hag's management style. Welcome to the United of Sport. My name is Webb. This is the quick morning, afternoon, or evening update, depending on where you are. Well, this one will be more of a wrap up of what's happening. It seems to be a busy day today as we continue to monitor what will come out of the season review by Ineos that's ongoing. Well, there are stories for you to ponder on. Now, the first one is with Jean-Clair Todibo, the niche centre back, the 24-year-old, who first of all ticks the box when it comes to age of players that Ineos will want to bring in. He's 24 and has played in several leagues across Europe. Now, Todibo is dropping interviews after interviews lately, and he has come out to state that that what Ineos does when they come into a club is to improve the mentality of the team to a more winning mentality. It seems to suggest that Nish has got a better winning mentality now because of Ineos. Now you can question that because what have they won ever since Ineos took over? And you can try and look at how they have struggled, oscillating from sixth to ninth and fifth and what. This season we thought they would win something. It's still there. So anyhow, this is the player who has been part of them, and he's saying that they bring a winning mentality. This is a sign for me that he's heaping praise and trying to show people that where he's headed, because he said he's ready to move, where he's headed, the people in charge are the right people. Well, this is Jean-Clair Todibo. So I think the fact that we are being linked with Jared Branthwaite is not to mean that Todibo is out. I think he's certainly, I think for me, a top runner. I still think he will be the first player we sign with Ineos. But there is another centre back in Jared Branthwaite, the Everton 21-year-old, who has been linked with Manchester United. And it is said now that United are considering going for him and Michael Olise at the same time. Just a double attack. So they go to Crystal Palace and Everton. Michael Olise is valued at about 60 million pounds. Branthwaite, they believe, could be valued at about as low as 40 million pounds. I said I expect Everton to go down on their 70 million pounds valuation of him, but 40 million might be a little bit on the low side. Probably it could be lower than we expected. But United, even if it's so, even if Olise is 60 and 40 for Branthwaite, can Manchester United afford 100 million pounds for two players at this point in time when there is no money to spend? With the financial fair play man and how he's dealing us bad, doing us dirty, the lack of liquidity with Manchester United because of the big loans we have with players used that as collateral and stuff, there is no cash to spend. And Ineos cannot just bring their money and inject into the transfers. So it's a difficult state. That's why Ineos are creatively coming out with ideas of swap deals. Now, can we get, for example, because we've got players like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who we value at about 10 million pounds, we can send him back to Crystal Palace and top on a little bit more pounds and be able to get a Michael Olise. So I would say, how much then would that be? Because remember, Olise, again, it's a very difficult situation because Olise is not wanted by only Manchester United. Teams like Arsenal seem to be interested in him. Chelsea have always been interested in him, probably because he refused to join them. They might give up on him, but teams never just give up on players they have wanted. They could go back again, hoping this time to convince him, and Chelsea would have the money, the cash to spend. So Crystal Palace, depending on which players we have and which players they think they can have value for in their squad. Because I believe a player like Scott McTominay can give value to Crystal Palace. Maybe if such a swap deal comes, we give them two players and a little bit more cash for Michael Olise, it would make sense. But for me, I'll still insist, before we get to that point, there are areas we need to sort first. I would listen if we started by negotiating a swap deal involving Jared Branthwaite, because we need a centre back urgently. In fact, we need two centre backs urgently. So if that was for me the swap deal we are prioritizing, it would make sense. But these are reports coming through. But you know that United will have less than 100 million pounds to spend unless we sell players for significant fees. The likes of Casemiro get good money from Saudi. But if we don't get good money for players, even players like Todibo will be a struggle for us to sign. We might end up getting players on loan. That's That's the worst that could happen. Now, speaking of loan, we loaned a player we bought for nearly 70 million pounds back to the sender, to the club from whom we brought him. That is Jadon Sancho. Now, former Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp, while speaking, of course, ahead of the UEFA Champions League final, but also speaking in an interview, talking about, he was asked about Jadon Sancho and his situation, and he's saying he doesn't believe that this whole is not good enough, talk that you don't buy a player, and of course he said 80 million, but it was a little less than that, but I mean, it's one and the same if you round it off. He said you don't buy a player for 80 million and you loan them out. If the whole world is against the player, such a player, you as the manager should be the last to back them. This is Jurgen Klopp, I think, throwing sort of a jig at Erik Ten Hag and his management style. And I think, guys, we've been consistently questioning a few things about Erik Ten Hag, whereas many of us, many United supporters, are insisting on keeping Erik Ten Hag. It's not to mean that he's perfect. We know all of us know his weaknesses. Yes, he can set standards, but like I've been saying consistently, there's a thin line between setting standards and being ruthless or being a poor man manager. There's a thin line between being a poor man manager and being a ruthless manager who sets standards. There's a thin line between the two because you can try to be you can try to be ruthless, but then end up being a poor man manager. And there are people who think, Erik Ten Hag has shown in a bit of that, has failed to control it. But with the support now he will get with Ineos and the new structure, maybe it will ease his job a bit. But Jurgen Klopp doesn't seem to be convinced by how Erik Ten Hag and handled this Jadon Sancho situation. And as we go into him, of course, playing the Champions League final, it has a chance to win it. Well, maybe very unlikely to people, just like it was unlikely to Manchester United for Manchester United to beat Man City for many in the FA Cup final. Football is interesting. This could be the season that Borussia Dortmund beats Real Madrid and wins the Champions League. It could be the season. This could be the time. So it's possible. So it's possible that Sancho, who is out of the England squad, could win the Champions League, and then what? His loan spell will be done, returns to Man United, and then what? How are you going to then let go of him? So there could be bigger decisions to make for Ineos, and again, all these factors will determine whether or not Ineos are going to keep Erik Ten Hag. But if Klopp is coming into this and throwing in his opinion, again, Ineos will probably have more reason to say, we are right. That's if the decision they had made has been to sack him. We are right. We are right. Because we are justified. Jurgen Klopp, the most overrated manager in the history of English football. Well, not that he's a bad manager, but I think people are already comparing him to Pep and Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger. That's me being overrated. One Premier League title in 9 years. Whichever way you look at it, you cannot be mentioned in the same line as Sir Alex Ferguson and Pep Guardiola. That's my honest truth, my honest opinion about it. But not to mean he's a poor manager. He's a respectable manager who earned it, but he's throwing in his contribution there, his opinion about the treatment of Jadon Sancho, a key player because the boy is young, he's only 24, he's playing in the same positions that Manchester United wants to spend so much money to bring in players. So if Klopp drops in such an opinion saying maybe he was mishandled, Ineos from within must be looking and thinking, okay, there could have been better ways of handling this. So all these things will play into what will come out probably at the end of this week as the verdict when it comes to the job of Erik Ten Hag. Well, let's wait and see what will happen. Jadon Sancho, swap deals are still being considered. Rather, Mason Greenwood, swap deals are still being considered. According to Ineos, if they get a sensible swap deal, they could go for it. Dortmund has been linked with him. Actually, I think for Dortmund, they would want to buy him. They're still going into their review to come up with a proper statement on whether they will go full all out for him or not after the Champions League, maybe. Then Napoli was linked with him. There was talks about Napoli and several other clubs. But where exactly will he go? Well, for now, we can only monitor and watch. All that will first depend on whether Erik Ten Hag stays or not. My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot. It has been a quick wrap up of what has happened while you were sleeping or while you were away in office at work. I stayed here to get the updates for you. My name is Webb. Subscribe and I'll catch you later.